We've all encountered a version of this exchange, and everyone with a viewpoint has their own podcast. Despite the staggering number of podcasts projected to stream in 2023, only a tiny fraction have a significant listenership. If your podcast gets around 30 downloads per episode, you're already considered to be in the top 50% of podcasters globally. There will need to be more than a few dozen listeners per episode to cover the expenses. Despite the promising growth projections for the podcasting industry, there is a concerning disparity between investments and listenership. As a result, the leading podcast publishers are beginning to face the consequences of this imbalance. The podcast industry as a whole has become flooded with an overwhelming number of shows. Podcast Insights reports that over 2 million podcasts are available in 2021. The current state of the online content landscape presents a significant challenge for aspiring influencers who are looking to make their mark and attract a sizable following. Although the ease of entry has made podcasting accessible to many, it has also led to a saturation of content in the industry. With the accessibility of a microphone and internet connection, anyone can dive into the world of podcasting. However, this has resulted in overwhelming content, making it increasingly challenging for high-quality podcasts to distinguish themselves. Though some podcasters have managed to generate revenue by securing sponsorships, running ads, and selling merchandise, many still need help achieving a stable income. This can result in disappointment and exhaustion among influencers who need help generating substantial revenue from their podcasts. Similar to other types of social media, podcasts are influenced by platform algorithms that dictate which content is highlighted and which may receive less visibility. Modifications to these algorithms can significantly affect the discoverability and reach of a podcast, posing challenges for influencers to sustain steady growth. With the growing number of podcasts, listener engagement could start to dwindle. Given the abundance of choices available, individuals might feel overwhelmed and less inclined to listen to podcasts consistently. It can be quite a task for influencers to keep their audience engaged and cultivate a dedicated fan base. Podcasts are just one type of media vying for consumers' attention. It's a crowded space for influencers, with competition from podcasts, YouTube channels, social media influencers, streaming services, and traditional media outlets. Consumer preferences constantly change, and what's in demand today may not be tomorrow. In this ever-evolving digital landscape, influencers must stay ahead of the curve and continuously find innovative ways to connect with their audience. Not doing so may lead to a decrease in the number of people who listen and a loss of relevance. While some podcasts thrive and achieve rapid growth and success, others may need help attracting new listeners or reaching a plateau. It can be frustrating for influencers who need help getting their desired audience size or achieving their podcast goals due to limited growth potential. Numerous podcasts tackle similar subjects and present similar structures, challenging influencers to stand out from their competitors. With a compelling selling point or specific target audience, influencers may find it easier to attract and keep listeners. The podcasting industry may change significantly due to emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and virtual and augmented reality. These advancements have the potential to revolutionize the way content is consumed. Influencers must stay on top of these trends and adjust their content to remain relevant. Although podcast advertising revenue has steadily increased, advertisers may become tired as more brands invest in podcast sponsorships. Advertisers are finding themselves in a more competitive landscape, with the market becoming increasingly saturated with ad-supported podcasts. As a result, they are becoming more selective about where they invest their money as the pool of advertising dollars continues to shrink. The metrics used to gauge podcast performance, including downloads, listens, and engagement rates, can vary in accuracy and standardization. The lack of transparency in this situation can result in inflated metrics and discrepancies between the reported impact of influencers' podcasts and their effectiveness. As advertisers become increasingly selective, they may expect more accurate measurement and transparency, potentially revealing weaknesses in the existing system and affecting the perceived worth of podcast sponsorships. Given the abundance of podcasts that tackle similar subjects and adopt comparable structures, there is a potential for an overflow of content and a need for more diversity. Many influencers find it challenging to create unique and captivating content that distinguishes them from others, resulting in a lack of variety and audience wariness. As audiences increasingly gravitate towards more specialized and unique content, podcasts with a generic approach may need help to maintain their relevance and popularity. Many influencers depend on external platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts to distribute their content and connect with their audience. Nevertheless, relying on external platforms exposes influencers to potential risks associated with algorithm changes, policy updates, and terms of service modifications. An unexpected shift in the algorithm or a change in platform policies can throw off an influencer's distribution strategy, potentially affecting their reach and causing a decline in both listenership and revenue. The podcasting industry faces various legal and regulatory hurdles, such as copyright concerns, licensing agreements, and content moderation policies. Influencers must navigate these complexities cautiously to avoid any legal disputes or compliance issues. Nevertheless, the podcasting landscape may face uncertainty and risk due to legal and regulatory changes. This could encourage influencers to create content or dissuade new participants from entering the market. Creating a podcast demands considerable time, effort, and resources, and it can be challenging for influencers to keep up with a regular production schedule while juggling other responsibilities. Over time, the constant demand to produce fresh episodes and meet the ever-growing expectation of viewers can result in exhaustion and raise concerns about long-term viability. Content creators might reduce or discontinue their podcasts if they become overwhelmed or find it challenging to maintain their efforts. This could result in a decrease in the market and a loss of talented individuals. Although podcasts may attract a large number of listeners, the level of engagement can differ. Many listeners may have multiple podcasts in their subscription list, but they often listen sporadically or unsubscribe if they lose interest. Building a loyal and dedicated audience can take a lot of work for influencers, as it can be challenging to maintain long-term engagement. This can result in fluctuations in listener numbers and revenue. During periods of economic decline, consumer spending habits tend to be affected, particularly when it comes to discretionary expenses like entertainment and media. Consumers tend to focus more on essential expenses rather than optional subscriptions or purchases in times of economic uncertainty. As a result, there may be a decrease in podcast listenership and advertising revenue. Content creators who heavily depend on podcasting for their livelihood may face significant challenges during economic downturns. They may need help to retain their audience and secure sponsorships. As the podcasting landscape evolves, specific influencers are exploring new ways to monetize their content. One approach involves offering subscription-based models, where listeners can access exclusive content or enjoy ad-free episodes for a monthly fee. Although subscription models provide a more reliable revenue stream compared to advertising, they can potentially restrict the reach and accessibility of podcasts, particularly for influencers who have a diverse audience. With the increasing number of influencers embracing subscription models, there is a concern about listeners experiencing fatigue from too many subscriptions, which could decrease overall podcast consumption. In short, the influencer podcast bubble is about to burst due to the influencer podcast industry's stratospheric ascent. Opportunities that looked infinite are now saturated and ready for disruption. The environment changes as millions of podcasts compete for attention and sponsors tire. The democratization of podcasting, although liberating, has caused oversaturation and quality loss. Podcasts are created by anybody with a microphone and an internet connection, overwhelming the market with unoriginal content. Thus, many influencers need help to generate momentum and a loyal following. Misleading and exaggerated podcast performance measures lead to differences between perceived and natural effects. Former investors in the burgeoning business are now more selective and seeking greater measurement and responsibility. Advertiser sentiment, diminishing listener engagement, and alternative audio sources threaten the influencer podcast bubble. Innovation and adaptability are possible despite the difficulties. Quick to adapt, tech-savvy influencers with attractive, unique material will undoubtedly survive. However, individuals who use obsolete methods may need to catch up. There is little doubt that the influencer podcast scene is changing, and only the fittest will survive. Influencers need to rethink their strategy, establish their specialty, and plan for long-term success in a competitive sector. Although the podcasting bubble may be set to burst, ready individuals may succeed.